Not violent, right? The people who are being released early are not violent. The violent.
There are many examples of violent criminals being released. Many examples.
The violent people that we saw on television were jailed, and some were they were jailed for months or they were jailed for years. There was absolutely no question, and they went straight to jail. There was no question about what he did.
The ones we saw on television, you're absolutely right. But what about the ones that the media do not put on television because they're inconvenient and don't follow the narrative?
That opening wasn't just frustration; it was a signal. Because the moment the phrase "a far right" enters the conversation, everything else starts to disappear, policy fades, facts get pushed aside, and a label takes over the entire debate. What you're about to watch isn't a serious discussion about public order or justice. It's something else entirely. It's a slow, uncomfortable unravelling of definitions, accountability and consistency, all under pressure.
So what do we make to all of this then? Zia Youssef, let me start with you. Your thoughts?
Well, look, this is turning out to be a dystopian Keir Starmer Labour government, worse than any of us could have ever feared. Let's get something clear about the term far right. According to Keir Starmer and his Labour government, anyone to the right of Karl Marx and Lenin are considered far right. I mean, if thinking that we should have secure borders, if believing that violent criminals should be in jail, if believing that we should have a coherent immigration policy, if believing that we should be prioritising, the government of the United Kingdom should put citizens of the United Kingdom ahead of citizens of foreign countries. If these are now to be considered far right, then God help us all. The reality is what we're seeing in Europe is a large number of people in the European populace waking up to the fact that totally uncontrolled mass migration, catastrophic population explosion and being incapable to build infrastructure to deal with it, seeing cultures like German culture, like French culture, essentially dissipate at the hands of such enormous numbers of people coming into these countries. That is why these countries' populations are saying we've had enough and are voting not for the sort of leftist governments that we have seen.
Scarlett?
What? Let's begin. Keir Starmer believes that violent criminals should be in jail. That's what he did after the riots. So let's kill that one.
Only after announcing he would release tens of thousands of criminals from prison.
Who were not violent, right? The people who are being released early are not violent.
There are many examples of violent criminals being released. Many examples.
The violent people that we saw on television were jailed, and some were they were jailed for months or they were jailed for years. There was absolutely no question, and they went straight to jail. There was no question about what he did.
The ones we saw on television, you're absolutely right. But what about the ones that the media do not put on television because they're inconvenient and don't follow the narrative? Those violent criminals have been released to make way for a very specific category of violent criminals.
You haven't actually given me violent criminals who have been the people who are being released, because there are quite a lot of people in jail who are not violent. And
hold on, then.
I'll give you one example. Yeah. There was a man who murdered somebody with a machete whose sentence was cut short and released. That was just one example, and there are many, many more such examples.
You're talking about, so I was just about to pipe in with this example. There was a young lad called Gordon Galt. He was attacked. He was 14. He was attacked with machetes. He was very sadly killed. Well, one of those kids that was involved in that killing, he is going to be released early. The mother of Gordon, the teenager that was killed, she's spoken out about this. She's deeply distraught by the fact that he's going to be released early because of overcrowding. So that's just...
But there are very few, and they have been trying to put...
Well, we've gone from none to very few.
When you say...
Quite a serious crime.
No. When you say, but you said that Keir Starmer doesn't believe in jailing violent criminals.
Because that's what his actions demonstrate.
And his actions after the riots actually showed that he was. Can I say that I mean, to pretend that Keir Starmer is some sort of Marxist, when he talks about the far right, we're talking in France about Marine Le Pen's party. We're talking about, in Germany, the AfD, right? And here, we're talking about the people who are writing. And actually, before the riots...
This is where the narrative starts to wobble. As long as the conversation stays abstract, slogans work. But the second real examples enter the room. Names, victims, early releases, real consequences. The confidence drains away. Suddenly it's a very few cases. Suddenly it's about context. Suddenly responsibility gets passed around the table. That isn't confusion. That's discomfort. Because facts don't bend as easily as political language does you.
Fairness.
So hang on, when you're talking about the far right, you've just said it's people like that that have been rioting. So, for example, the primary school child that the police seemed to, what looked to me like it was some kind of weird dawn raid that they took great pride in broadcasting everywhere. Is that who you're calling far right then, this primary
No,
school
I'm
child?
talking about the leaders. I mean, I think a lot of people got worked up in the riots.
So so hang on, because I'm just trying to ascertain, because I do think it's important that we all are on the same page about what we're talking about. So we're not talking about the 11-year-old children that were rioting, we're talking about the leaders of those riots. So you're talking about the people in Hare Hills as well, you're calling those people far right?
No, the people in Hare, I mean, it was a completely different sort of thing, wasn't
But
it?
they were rioters, though, weren't they?
They were rioters.
They flipped over a police car. They flipped over a police car. They torched a bus.
So we left of rioting.
But,
I was specifically talking about. I was specifically talking about the people who thinking that a Muslim might have killed those children, went to try and set fire to a mosque. I would call that far right.
And do you know who started that? Do you know who the gentleman was who was charged now with cyber terrorism for actually being the person who started off that entire vicious false rumour online? Was actually a Pakistani man. Is he far right?
Right. Well, I think anybody who starts...
Well, my point is that there's this narrative to which all of these data points must fit. And your point saying that Keir Starmer has been incredibly firm in wanting to put violent criminals in jail with regards to the quote-unquote far right. Be clear, let me finish my point with respect. In that instance, for those particular people, Keir Starmer and this government and indeed appears to be the judicial system, are perfectly happy to throw the book at them, performative BBC live-streamed trials. For people from other groups, totally the opposite. The police essentially fled the scene in Hare Hills, leaving the populace to fend for themselves. A police car was flipped, a bus was torched, other cars were torched. It was a godsend and very fortunate that there weren't serious injuries or murders in that situation. You see the way that the police have policed, for example, the Notting Hill Carnival. I mean, the reports of over 50 police officers were attacked during that festival. The reports coming back from the police read more like something out of a report from a war zone than they read a festival. So there's a totally different way that our police and that...
For 5 years.
Why? Why were they jailed for 5 years?
They were jailed for 5 years for eco-terrorism, basically.
Yeah, but why? What did they do that made the judge do that?
They were holding people up, right? They were disrupting. What I'm saying...
No, because we need to be clear about this, because they weren't just jailed for holding people up. That's not what happened. The group that you're talking about, which included people like Roger Hallam, they were given such huge sentences because what they conspired to do, so this was not a random, spontaneous act of, let's just hold that fella up at the lights for half an hour to chant my Just Stop Oil statement. What this was, it was deliberate, planned conspiracy to try and bring motorway networks to an absolute halt. That would have affected the lives of millions of people.
Right? Can I
what
quickly...
What about the fella that chucked that stuff at Nigel Farage?
He's got a suspended sentence.
He got a suspended sentence for throwing a cup of cement at one of our political leaders during a general election campaign. And I will tell you, someone who works with Nigel every single day, there is no braver politician in this country. And anyone less brave, I can tell you, would have withdrawn themselves a long time ago from the political landscape in this country. It's actually quite terrifying how the judicial system, this actually isn't policing, this is actually the judicial system, which in some ways is even more of a concern because it's obviously independent. The judicial system has essentially said that our political leaders on political leaders in this country in recent times.
It's always been like that. I mean, the person who threw an egg at John Prescott did not get jailed, right? I mean, nobody...
No, hang on. Right. Sorry, I feel like I'm cutting in all the time and I don't want to. We're in a political time where apparently this new government is desperate. They are falling over themselves to tell a lesson to people, teach a lesson to people that you can't go around behaving like this. So you've got this fast-track, supercharged, very quick route into prison for people that are doing wrong when it suits the government. This is a political climate where apparently you want to dissuade people from doing wrong. So if you're going to attack a politician, that is, in my book, a definition of doing something wrong. So whilst we're in this current kind of...
Yeah. But
So it's different then, isn't it?
What I'm saying is, of course, I condemn and I didn't know it was cement. I thought somebody threw a milkshake at me.
No, well, that was a separate, situation.
I mean, of course, and I've been here and I've condemned it.
So you don't think
air.
that person should have gone to jail? You don't think he should serve time in jail?
I don't know. I mean, that's the judiciary. I mean, it's the judiciary.
Well, I'm asking you your opinion.
I actually try not to have opinions on things that I don't know a lot about. I don't.
Well, somebody. I mean, it's a pretty straightforforward case.
No. This is. You're telling me what happened. I would rather.
So you didn't see it?
I didn't see it.
Okay.
I didn't see it. I saw the milkshake, and the next morning I was on here and I said that it's absolutely wrong because actually I said Nigel Farage had no idea what was in that milkshake, and
I've gone off topic. Keir Starmer, my point is, Keir Starmer keeps rabbiting on about the so-called far right, but no one even seems to be able to define what it is. And even just in your definition, we've gone from, you defined the far right as people that rioted. Then you said, OK, it's not the kids, it's the leaders. Then when I've put to you, well, are the Hare Hills riots is far right? Then you say, no, they're not far right. Then when you say, you mean the far right people are the ones that are targeting the mosque, and then he points out that it was actually some random fellow in Pakistan that spread all those rumours, then you don't think he's
who
far
didn't
right.
target the mosque. I
But
mean,
hang on, he's going to have very long arms if he's sitting in Pakistan, isn't it? To be able to target a mosque in the UK.
What I'm saying is I think that people who go to a mosque to try and set it on fire, which is what happened, right? I mean...
Saw how the definition of a far right shifted every time it was challenged. You heard how clear questions were met with evasions, qualifications, and deflections. And you felt that hesitation. The moment when a simple answer became impossible. This is a pattern. Labels come first. Clarity comes last, if it comes at all. And this is why trust is gone. When the law is applied selectively, people notice. When violence is condemned loudly in one case and minimised in another, people remember. And when accountability is replaced by word games, legitimacy evaporates. This isn't about left versus right. It's about honesty versus evasion. It's about whether those in power are willing to answer straight questions with straight answers, or whether they'd rather hide behind language. So, ask yourself this. Is this incompetence, or is it cowardice? And would you really trust people like this to run the country? If you saw it, if you heard it, if you felt that hesitation, then like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the bell.